We love to really dig deep, and you've given us quite the book to explore this time.
Oh, yeah, this one's really something.
Vernon Howard's Mystic Path to Cosmic Power.
Definitely makes you think.
It does. So let's unpack some of this wisdom and, see if we can apply it to our own lives.
Well, it's interesting how he just comes right out and says it right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
He says, most of us are going through life in a state of what he calls psychic sleep.
Okay.
And that even if we seem successful or, outwardly happy,
Right.
we're not truly awake to our full potential.
So, like, we're sleepwalking through life.
Yeah, kind of.
But what does he mean exactly by psychic sleep?
Well, he's basically saying we're often ruled by our negative emotions, fears and desires, and we're living at the surface level, unaware of our true selves and their power.
Mm.
He even compares it to being hypnotized.
Oh, wow.
Where you only know that hypnotic state and you can't even imagine anything different.
So we're trapped in this limited reality, blind to what might exist beyond it.
Exactly. And, think about a time when you were chasing a goal, You were so sure that if you just got that promotion or bought that, fancy car or whatever it was, it was going to bring you happiness.
Yeah.
But then you get it and it's like,
it's not there.
it's empty.
Yeah.
It's just this void. And Howard would argue that that's that psychic sleep at play.
Right.
You're mistaking, external validation for genuine fulfillment.
And he uses that powerful image from the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Awake thou that sleepest.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because it wasn't directed at, simple folks living, ordinary lives. This was directed at people at the top, rulers, business people.
Those who seem to have it all.
Exactly. Families even. And it suggests that even those who seem outwardly successful can be, deeply asleep to their true nature.
Yeah, take Tolstoy, for example.
Yeah, perfect example.
Here's this celebrated author, seemingly has it all right, fame, fortune.
Everything.
And yet he was on the verge of suicide, overwhelmed by this sense of meaninglessness.
Yeah, and and that's the point. Tolstoy's experience shows us that psychic sleep isn't about, material lack. It's about a spiritual one.
Okay.
He was looking for fulfillment in all the wrong places externally, and that just led him to despair. It was his inner awakening, the realization of his true self, that ultimately brought him peace.
It really makes you think about what we prioritize.
It really does.
In life.
It does. And Howard, he drives this point home with the story of King Canute trying to stop the tide.
Oh, right.
Like, no matter how much we try to control life with our limited will, there are forces at play beyond our grasp.
It's like he's saying, get over yourself. There's a bigger picture here.
Exactly. Get over yourself. So thinking about, your own life, are there areas where you feel like you're just on autopilot?
Oh, interesting.
Just reacting instead of consciously choosing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Maybe this idea of psychic sleep offers a new perspective on those experiences.
So we're sleepwalking, but how do we wake up?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Howard says the key is self-observation.
Okay.
But not the self-criticism kind of.
Right.
It's about observing your thoughts and feelings as they come up, but with detachment.
Oh, like he talks about watching a tiger walk by, right?
Yeah.
You don't try to grab it and wrestle with it. You just observe.
Exactly. You just watch it. So imagine you're in that, frustrating grocery store line.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of getting all, angry and impatient.
Right.
You hit pause on a remote.
Okay.
And just notice what's going on in your body. What thoughts are running through your mind.
Just observe.
No judgment,
Yeah.
just observation.
Okay.
And in that space, you actually gain the power to choose a different response.
Oh, interesting.
You can start to see your thoughts and emotions for what they really are.
Which is
So these fleeting, transient things,
Yeah.
often stemming from, our conditioned minds, not our true selves.
So you create that space, that pause between the trigger and your usual reaction.
Exactly.
Interesting. And he quotes Gurdjieff on this self-observation. Brings man to the realization of the necessity for self-change.
Right. It's not just about, watching the show.
Right.
It's about using that awareness to actually make a change.
I like that.
It's about recognizing those patterns and thinking, wait a minute, I don't have to be controlled by this anger or this insecurity, whatever it is.
Wow.
We have a choice.
That's empowering.
It is.
We're not just victims of circumstance. We have agency.
Exactly. And as we practice this self-observation,
Yeah.
we start to see that a lot of our fears and a lot of our desires are actually based on illusions, on this false sense of self. And this leads us to another, key point in Howard's work,
Yeah.
which is this distinction between our true selves, which
Right.
are inherently loving and peaceful,
Right.
and then our false selves,
Yeah.
which are driven by, fear and desire.
It's like we're clinging to this, fragile, always changing sense of self.
Yeah.
And it creates all this anxiety and unease.
Exactly. It's like building a house on sand, as Howard would say.
Right.
He distinguishes between what he calls healthy desires,
Right.
the ones that are aligned with our true selves,
Yeah.
and then those compulsive cravings that just lead to more suffering.
More suffering. Like,
Yeah.
he compares vanity to a hungry child that's never satisfied no matter how much attention or praise it gets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So many of our ego-driven desires are just like that.
Yeah.
It's a bottomless pit. And he quotes Fenelon on this, who said, "Then can men have no more power over us because they can neither take us by our desires nor by our fears."
Now, that's powerful.
It is.
It's like our happiness and security, they don't depend on external circumstances or what other people think.
Right.
It comes from within.
It comes from within. It's about finding that unshakable center within ourselves.
Right.
That peace that can't be disturbed by the ever-changing, tides of life.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And a big part of accessing that peace is learning to live in the present moment.
Living in the now. Yeah. That's easier said than done, I think, for a lot of us.
It is a practice.
It is.
It really is. But Howard's point is that true happiness, it can only exist in the present moment,
Okay.
Clinging to the past or, worrying about the future. All that does is create suffering, and it's usually unnecessary suffering.
Right.
He's saying, break free from that trap and really experience the richness of now.
It makes me think of that Marcus Aurelius quote, confine yourself to the present.
Yes, exactly. And Alan Watts talks about this too. How our ego, that false sense of self, is always trying to grasp onto the past or control the future.
Right.
And that keeps us from really experiencing the beauty and the freedom of right now.
So how do we actually apply this, living in the now idea in a practical way? Because like you said, it's a practice.
Right.
But our lives are so busy and chaotic.
Yeah, well, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
When you feel your mind getting caught up in regrets or anxieties, you can gently guide it back to the present. Focus on your senses. What do you see? What do you hear, smell, taste, touch?
Right.
Engaging those senses really roots you in the present moment.
Yeah. It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. And the more we practice this presence, the more natural it becomes to just let go of those fears and anxieties that come with, dwelling on the past or the future. We start to find a sense of ease and contentment just in being.
This whole, journey of self-discovery, this mystic path, as Howard calls it, it feels so personal.
It is very much so. And what I find fascinating is how he emphasizes that it takes courage.
Okay.
It takes a willingness to question your assumptions,
Yeah.
And to really sincerely seek truth.
Not just blind faith.
Not at all. He's not advocating for blind faith. He wants you to actively engage.
Yeah.
He wants you to test these principles out in your own life, see if they work.
He's like, don't just take my word for it.
Exactly. Try it yourself. Experience it firsthand.
Oh,
He
yeah.
uses that analogy of climbing a mountain. There are many paths, but each step takes you closer to the summit. And the key is to keep moving forward, trusting your own inner compass.
And he even quotes Emerson on this, who says, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail.
I love that word.
It's about trusting that inner wisdom,
Exactly.
that's unique to you.
What works for you. And, he suggests things like journaling or just observing your reactions to everyday events, maybe even, connecting with other like-minded people.
So grounding these big concepts in everyday action.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
about, escaping from the world, but transforming how we experience it from the inside out.
Find that peace and freedom within.
Yes. And that brings us to, I think, the final really thought-provoking point from Howard.
Okay.
He says that, true happiness is already within us.
Oh.
What if instead of searching for it everywhere else, outside of ourselves,
Yeah.
what if we just need to remove the obstacles that are obscuring it?
Wow. So it's about looking inward, exploring that inner world to discover the peace and joy that's already there.
That's it. And that's the journey, isn't it?
It is.
And, Howard's mystic path, it's a lifelong adventure.
Sure.
It has its challenges and its rewards, its twists and turns. But ultimately, it leads us to, that incredible treasure,
Which is,
the realization of our true selves and that lasting peace and happiness that comes with it.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
Mhm.
This has been a really fascinating discussion.
It has.
Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into Vernon Howard's mystic path to cosmic power.
Absolutely my pleasure.